Hello, welcome to Horror Haven channel. The title of our first story today is The Haunting Echoes. Let us dive in. In the small town of Ravenswood, an old Victorian house had long been abandoned deep in the midst of the countryside. According to legend, a tragedy occurred behind those old walls, and the spirits of the past still remained, seeking solace and vengeance. It was thought to be cursed, with its ghostly presence casting a fearful shadow over anybody who dared to approach. One fateful summer, a young couple named Christine and Peter were exploring the outskirts of town when they came across the dilapidated mansion. Their curiosity got the best of them, and they chose to go inside despite the locals' cautions. The air within was oppressive and suffocating, and as they crossed the threshold, a chill ran down their spines. Their footsteps echoed across the empty rooms as they warily explored the first floor. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper that was flaking away like ancient skin. It felt as if time had stopped behind those walls, locked in a never-ending condition of ruin. They observed an old photograph on a dusty table as they approached the creaking stairs. The artwork featured a family, their smiles joyful, but their eyes were sorrowful. Christine and Peter could not take their gaze away from the photograph, feeling an unexplainable connection to the frozen family. They went deeper into the home, uneasy but determined to find out what was going on. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets only the spirits knew. A blast of wind slammed a door shut behind them, sealing their fate within the eerie house. The pair found themselves in a dimly lighted chamber full with cobwebs and lost memories. They discovered an antique wooden crib covered in a thin layer of dust in the center. Christine reached out to touch it out of curiosity, but as her palm made contact, a piercing pain surged through her body, causing her to flinch. From within the crib, a voice resonated around the room. "Why did you disturb us?" it mumbled. Overcome with agony and sadness, Christine and Peter exchanged terrified looks, trying to figure out where the voice came from. Suddenly, the room changed in front of their eyes. The walls closed in, the crib became larger, and the murmurs became more audible. The souls of the family from the photograph manifested, their agonized features distorted. They reached out, their chilly, ethereal fingers caressing Christine and Peter's skin. The pair rushed down the stairs, terrified and desperate to escape, their hearts pounding in their chests. The house seemed to come to life, as if the very essence of its haunted past had awakened to punish its intruders. A chorus of ghostly groans filled the air as the walls moaned and the floor trembled. The sunlight greeted them as they burst through the front door, bringing consolation from the terrible things they had experienced. Christine and Peter sprawled on the grass, their bodies saturated in sweat and gasping for air. Looking back at the once grand Victorian mansion, they recognized that evil was not to be ignored. They had come into contact with the supernatural, an incident that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Our second story is named The Sinister Visitor. The wind whispered through the trees, creating an eerie melody on a moonless night. Sally had recently moved into her new apartment, a charming small house on the outskirts of town. She liked the seclusion because it provided a respite from the chaos of city life. Sally was about to go to bed one evening when she heard a faint tapping on her window. She looked outside, startled, but saw nothing but blackness. She rejected the noise and climbed into bed, blaming it on her imagination. The tapping returned, louder this time, just as she was about to drift off. Sally stared through the window, her heart thumping, only to see a face pressed against the glass, a gaunt, pale face with empty eyes that seemed to penetrate her entire soul. Her pulse was racing as she shouted and staggered backward. She dialed 911, but by the time the cops came, the burglar had vanished into thin air. Sally's worry increased as the days stretched into weeks. In the middle of the night, she heard weird noises, a faint whispering that resonated through the halls, frightening her to the bone. She discovered artifacts that had been moved from their original locations, as if someone had been snooping through her belongings. Sally decided to put security cameras throughout her apartment because she couldn't take the pain any longer. She hoped that the video would show the presence that tormented her every waking moment. Sally's blood turned cold one evening as she listened to the tapes. The video showed a shadowy figure gliding slowly around her living room, its body distorted and out of place. It seemed to float effortlessly, defying physics. The figure's face was hidden, but its menacing presence was palpable. Sally became terrified as she realized she was dealing with something supernatural. She sought answers from a local paranormal investigator, a man well-versed in the strange occurrences. He agreed to come to her residence and investigate. When the investigator arrived, He immediately set up his equipment and began exploring the apartment, his senses alert to any ghostly activity. Sally kept a cautious eye on him as he wandered from room to room, listening for any signs of the sinister presence. A bone-chilling surge of wind swept through the flat, blowing out all the lights. The darkness engulfed them, leaving Sally and the investigator terrified. The investigator's voice trembled as he chanted an incantation to ward off the evil power. Sally felt a presence closing in on her as the air became heavy. She could feel its chilling touch on her flesh and hear its ragged breath. But, just as she thought she'd given up hope, a brilliant light flooded the room, eradicating the darkness. Sally opened her eyes to find the apartment vacant and the investigator gone. The ghostly activity subsided over the next few days, and Sally began to feel more at ease. Sally is still perplexed by that frightening guest and the strange occurrences that occurred in her new flat. She's left with a nagging question: what evil lies in the shadows, ready to punish those who dare to cross its path?